I really don't want to put all these away now, because, like, it's a mess. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my September haul. It's a big one. So it's that time of the month again where I do my monthly haul. I do love doing these videos, but I have quite a few to show you. But in my defense, half of them are not my fault. I'm gonna blame my husband for those. But we have quite a few. We went to a bargain bookstore near my parents when we went visiting near the beginning of the month. You would have seen that in my weekly vlogs that I did. And we picked up quite a few things there. And that's the biggest chunk, I want to say. I also picked up a few things that I wanted to read this month, and also a couple of book boxes. So, let's just get into it. The first three books I'm going to do together because they are a trilogy, and that is these three lovely books by Ben Alderson. This is the Dragor series, I think is how it is pronounced, but it starts with Cloaked in Shadow, and then we've got Poisoned in Light, and the finale is Found in Night. I, at one point, used to know what this is about, but now all I can remember is that it is about gay elves. I'm excited about that. I read another book by him last month, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really interested in this. I believe this was his debut series, so I'm really interested to see how it goes. The elves really fascinate me. I like that idea and that kind of mythical being as being like the major point of the story. So I'm really excited to see it. I'm also really excited to see a series because the one that I read is kind of a standalone. So it looks like we follow our main character whose name is Zachary, I think. And he's taken to the elven capital where he's forced to be part of the king's new legion of shapeshifters, except for that he doesn't actually know how to shapeshift, and he's not entirely sure what he is, but I think he can do some sort of magic. And it looks like it's kind of a war book almost, because it says there's a war on the horizon, but it seems like there might be a found family trope because you meet some people who will help him out. I'm not entirely sure, but you know, you had me at elves. You had me at elves. The next book I picked up was Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren. I read a Christina Lauren book and I realized I was running low on the Christina Lauren books that I own and haven't read, so I decided to pick one up that I've been very interested in. And I can't remember a whole lot about this, but I do believe it is a office romance between our main two characters, and I read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne not too long ago, and I really enjoyed that, and I'd love to see their take on it because you got to know I love me Christina Lauren. I love their books. The more I read the back, the more it sounds like The Hating Game, so I feel like if you like that book, you'll enjoy this one. But it follows Carter and Evie, who had a very awkward meet-cute at a Halloween party, and then they kind of just hit it off, and they work at competing firms. I don't know exactly. They work as high-powered agents at competing firms in Hollywood. So I'm not sure if that's like agent firms or like, I'm not entirely sure. But then those two agencies merge and they both vie for the same job. So it seems like a hate to love almost, but I love Christina Lauren. One of these days I will read all of their books. That is my goal. And then I picked up Unmarriageable by Sonia and Kamal. This one I picked up because it was on my TBR for September and I just didn't ever get around to it, which is fine because I wanted to read it anyway. And this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling set in Pakistan. I am not 100% sure what it is about, but it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling. Need I say more? So it looks like it's exactly the same plot as Pride and Prejudice, with the 5 daughters and the mom wanting to get them married off, and then like the Bingley character catching the oldest eye, and then Darcy and the Lizzie character kind of coming to heads. But it sounds like it takes place all at this wedding, which I'm pretty sure is like a multiple day thing. I think this is going to be great. I'm very interested to see this one because I love a good Pride and Prejudice retelling, and I like the ones that are set in different cultures than my own because it just gives me a better, you know, a story that I love and I know I'm going to love, but gives me kind of exposure to these cultures that I don't know about. So I would like to get to this at some point. Who knows when that will be? But yeah, I also love this cover. I think it's stunning. I'm a fan of the illustrated covers. The next one you will have already seen because it is on my October TBR, and I just dropped it on the floor and kicked my camera. It's a good day. And that is Fang, or Fangs, sorry, by Sarah Anderson. This is basically a love story between a vampire and a werewolf. It is super short. It's also like leather bound. It's so pretty. I even read a couple of the pages when I first got it just to kind of see what it was like, and it is so funny. So I will be getting to this one probably closer to Halloween this month, and I'm stoked about it. So now we're in like the section of all the books that we bought. We went to the Books A Million near my parents. We don't actually have a Books A Million near us, so I was very excited that we could go. And the first one, we'll start with my husband's books, but actually this one probably works for both of us, and that is The President is Missing by Bill Clinton and James Patterson. Now, if you've been here for a couple of years, you will have noticed that yes, we did actually already own this book, but we recently got the next one in this. Is this series? I'm not sure. These authors released a book called The President's Daughter, and so it's kind of the same. I want to say it's part of the same series, but that came out in hardback, and so we found a very cheap hardback at the store and decided to replace our paperback with this hardback. This is exactly what it sounds like. It follows this president, whose name they're not going to tell me, but it's basically the story of the president who kind of disappears for a little bit while he's trying to solve this conflict, and it's written by Bill Clinton and James Patterson, so you've got the fantastic kind of like thriller mystery that James Patterson can give, but you've also got the accuracy of a president that Bill Clinton can give. And I personally loved this book, so I highly recommend if you like legal thrillers or thrillers set around the White House and things like that. Political thrillers maybe is a better word. But yes, we picked this up so we could match our hardback. Tis a coffee break. Not gonna lie, don't know a thing about the next one. And that is this one, which is Forward by Abby Wambach? I think she's a soccer player. She is! And Chris is a huge soccer fan. He's definitely gotten me into soccer now. I understand things, and it's a very new experience for me. She is a 2015 World Cup champion, I believe, and she's really into advocating for women's rights. So it's just kind of a memoir, I believe. Yeah, it says it right there. A memoir that she wrote, and I will also be reading this at some point. Don't know when, but yeah, he loves a good memoir and a biography. Like, that is his thing. And the fact this is about a soccer player just encapsulates him as a person. The next one is The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Now, I've actually had a copy of this. I bought it like when I first moved out of my parents' house, because they had a copy and I wanted a copy, and then I never read it, and I finally got rid of it when I moved in with my husband, and didn't know that he wanted it, and so we found a copy that was really cheap, and so he picked it up because he has enjoyed Dan Brown books. I believe he's read at least one by him, and he just likes the idea of this. So yeah, I don't really remember exactly what this is about, but it's kind of like a mystery thriller that revolves around Leonardo da Vinci, and like it kind of reminds me of like the National Treasure movies, where like you're going through history and picking out little things that have kind of been like breadcrumbs have been left for you, and so you're kind of like picking out all these clues, except for this one follows Leonardo da Vinci, and I think someone's dead. I think it's a murder mystery as well. Yes, there is a murder, and it follows a Harvard symbologist, I think, someone who studies symbols. So I'm sure many of you have seen this movie and know what this is about, but we got our hands on that one because I got rid of it and didn't realize he wanted it still. The next one I also don't really know what this is about, but it's this book, and it says Secret Lives of Great Composers. So I don't know if this is made for adults or if this is for younger readers, but I think it's just a collection of stories about composers that are like not as well known. Like on the back here it says True Tales of Murder, Riots, Heartbreak, and Great Music. And for those of you who don't know, my husband Chris is a music teacher, so he loves music, and this is also right up his alley, and it just kind of, I think, is an insight into the craziness that are these composers. And then the next, I think 14, I'm just going to do in quick succession because they're all John Grisham books that my husband picked up. Now, if you've been here for a little bit, you know that we have been trying, he had a lot of paperbacks that he's been trying to replace with cheaper hardbacks, but also like John Grisham is one of his favorite authors, and so he wants to collect all of these pretty editions, and so we grabbed some that we had previously owned in paperback, as well as some that we haven't actually owned at all. So now his John Grisham shelf is 2, and it's going to probably be an entire bookshelf at some point, which is totally fine. So I'm going to go quickly through these. I don't really know what these are about, but John Grisham is a legal thriller, so if you like that kind of legal thing, some of them have been made into movies. I'm sure you've heard some of the titles, but I will leave them all linked down below if you are curious to know more about a specific one. So we start with The Firm. Ooh, there we go. The Rainmaker, The Runaway Jury, The Partner, The Street Lawyer, The Brethren. Ooh, that's shiny too. The Painted House, which I actually think is not a legal thriller, but it's still one of his. The King of Torts, The Last Juror, The Appeal, The Associate, Ford Country, which actually is much smaller than the rest of them, but we're not sure if there's a bigger one, but Ford Country. The Racketeer, and The Innocent Man, which is actually a nonfiction I think he wrote about a true crime. So that is a look at those books. My stack is very precarious at this moment, but that's, yeah, he likes this guy. And then I actually walked out of there with significantly less books because I only came out with 4, which if you're on my Instagram, you will have seen. But the first one is That Inevitable Victorian Thing by E.K. Johnston. Now, first off, this cover is stunning. This has been on my TBR for such a long time that I honestly have completely forgotten what this is about, but I believe it's like a alternate history almost of the British Empire. It says set in a near world where the British Empire never fell, a surprising, romantic, and thought-provoking story of love, duty, and the small moments that change people and the world. So that sounds really interesting. It does follow Queen Victoria the First, or sorry, a descendant of Queen Victoria the First, which is a queen that I am fascinated with. She's one of the ones that I've loved, like, kind of diving into her history, and that's really all I know. But I love monarchy. I love Victorian, Edwardian England. I like Regency England, like just that kind of time period, or time periods that I really enjoy. And I mean, this was not purely a cover buy, but the cover is one of the reasons that grabbed my attention to make me look into it. And I'm very interested. The next one I picked up is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London, which, if I remember correctly, is kind of like, if you like The Bachelor, you'd like this because there's a reality TV show aspect. But we follow our main character, Bia, who is a plus-sized woman, and she goes on this TV show to kind of like make a point, I believe. But it's one that a lot of people, like when it came out, I think this past summer, I want to say, maybe it was the summer before. It came out in 2020, so it did come out in the summer. People seem to love this, and I've been really interested in it, and so I did end up picking this one up. I'm not sure when I'll get around to it, but I like the idea. I do like The Bachelor show. Like, it's not one that I watch all of the time. I used to be obsessed with it for like a year, and then now I can get sucked in if I'm watching it, but I just like that idea, you know? And I like that this is probably going to touch on a lot harder topics than just like a fluffy romance would. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. Another one that I picked up that I've had my eye on for quite a while is The Marriage Clock, and this is by Zahra Rahim, but it follows this girl, or woman, named Leia, I think, and she is a Muslim American woman who strikes a deal with her parents that she will find her future husband in 3 months, or they were going to arrange a marriage for her. I'm not sure if she kind of just like finds someone and does like a fake dating almost just to like get her parents off her back. It doesn't quite sound like that, but this sounds like fun. This cover is very pretty. I love me a good contemporary romance, so I grabbed that one too. And then another one, which I think is the one that's been on my TBR the longest out of the 4 that I picked up, is this stunning edition of Analyse, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's by David R. Gilham, and this is a story, it's kind of like a historical fiction story on what happened if Anne Frank actually lived and didn't die when she did. And it takes place in 1945, and she's 16 years old, and she's survived the concentration camps, and it's just kind of like her surviving, basically. This cover is stunning, but I just like that idea. I'm very curious what this author is going to think and kind of put our character in, kind of what he imagines Anne Frank is her life would be like. I'm very fascinated by that. So I picked this one up. I could not believe I saw it, and this, I swear, was like $2. I couldn't believe it. The next two books are the books that I got in I think it was my August Fairy Loot that I actually unboxed in September. I'll leave that linked above or down below if you want to see it. So if you don't want to be spoiled on what those books are, look away. So they did have their, you know, hardback that they have in every single box, but they did include a special paperback this month, and that one was After Love by Tanya Byrne. It says right here, not even death will tear them apart. It's also sprayed beautifully with these bright purple or bright pink that matches the cover, but this gives me, like, it's definitely sapphic vibes because it looks like there is a female-female romance, but it does follow a girl named Ash who I think is killed in a car accident, but it's New Year's Eve and she's kind of in limbo, and so I think she's waiting on the girl that she fell in love with. I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely has that in limbo feel. She wants to be with her girl, dead or alive, it says on the back here at the end. So I don't know, it sounds kind of perfect for this time of year with like the ghosty elements of it. So that one was like the extra book, but the fun, stunning hardback that we got this month is this one, which is these Holo Vows by Lexi Ryan. It says up here, a heart is a dangerous thing to steal. So it's got this stunning exclusive cover, as you can see, very fall. It's got sprayed top and bottom, this nice orange, but on the side it's got these beautiful little, I think they're supposed to be suns, and then of course everything about this book is pretty, but like there's exclusive, you know, dust jacket, but the cover is, you know, embossed. It's just stunning, but it looks like it follows this character whose name I've already forgotten, Bree, and it's in this world where there are Seelie and Unseelie Fae, and I think her sister is kidnapped by one of the kings, the king of the Unseelie court, and so she goes undercover to this court as a betrothed option, kind of a potential bride, I guess is a better word, for the prince, and I think it's kind of a, maybe not love triangle, but like a conflict, if you will, between that, and then there is this leader of the rebels that she also, I think, likes. And I do believe this is the first in the series, but it's got fae and it's got courts and it looks stunning and very autumnal, and I am so excited to pick this up at some point. But that is the stunning, absolutely stunning hardback that I got from the Fairy Loot. The next two I picked up because I was going to read them in September, which I did, and the first one is Lord of Eternal Night by Ben Alderson. So this is the author that I did the trilogy at the very beginning of this video, and this is the one book that I haven't read of his. It was his most recent release. It is about vampires, kind of. So we follow two characters, Marius and Jack is, I'm not sure if he was considered a witch, but he comes from a witch, basically, and they have lost their powers, so he is sent to this creature's castle, which is the kind of cursed being, because someone is sent there every, I think, few years or so, and his goal is to kill this kind of creature, and then that will restore the powers to his mother and his coven, I guess. But then you've also got Marius, who is the creature in this castle, and he is a vampire, and they fall hard. But I picked that one up. It's definitely perfect for like the fall autumnal vibes. And then I also got Portrait of Scotsman by Evie Dunmore, which came out at the very beginning of September. This is the third in a companion series, which is called The League of Extraordinary Women. And this is a historical romance series that I have fallen head over heels for. And it follows these four women who are part of the Oxford Suffragette chapter. And this follows Hattie, whose father is a very well-off banker, but I think he's been having some issues. And so because of some things that happen, she ends up being forced to marry his nemesis, who's named Lucian Blackstone. And Lucian is kind of, he got lots of money because he kind of worked himself up from the bottom. He did some very unsavory things to kind of get where he is. And so the two of them are forced to get married, and then they take a trip to Scotland, and it's their story. So these are just really great historical romances that also are very thought-provoking. So this was the third one, and I cannot wait for the fourth one, which will not come out for another year. But it's fine. Everything's fine. And then my volume 5 of Dreamy Sun did finally show up this month. And this is a series by Ichigo Taganu that I have been raving over for months. I'm sure if you've been here for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about it. But it's basically a contemporary, I'm not even sure if you would call it a romance, but it's a contemporary manga series. There are 10 volumes, and I am on volume 4. So I picked up volume 5 finally, and I'm very excited to continue because I've loved this series so much. It basically follows our main character, Shirahama, who does not feel loved at home. Her father has remarried and they have just had a kid, and she feels like all of the energy is gone to her sibling, and so she decides to run away. And in doing so, she meets this man in the park who kind of basically says, hey, I have a very cheap place for you to live, but I need you to tell me a few things. One of them is why you're running away. The second one is to help me find a key. And the third one is to kind of have a dream and fall in love. And so she moves into this place with 2 other boys that are at her school and this landlord. And it's very kind of found family trope, but it is utterly ridiculous and I love every second of it. So I got the 5th volume finally in the mail, even though I ordered it in like the middle of August. And then the very last book that I'm going to show you is the book that I received in my September Unplugged Book Box. So if you haven't watched that video or you don't want to be spoiled, here is your cue to click away. Thank you for watching. But I got the adult box, and I can't remember exactly what the theme was. I think it had to do with rising from the ashes like a phoenix. But we got this book, which is The Night We Burned by S.F. Kosa, and this is an adult thriller. So this follows our main character, Dora, who has got some interesting things in her past, but she's a fact checker for an online magazine. Then something happens in her hometown, and it's linked to a deadly fire at a cult compound 20 years prior, and so she goes with the person who's writing this as their fact checker, and is changing some things about what they're finding so they don't find out about her past. And that sounds fascinating to me. I love this cover. I think it's stunning. So yeah, this is the book that we got in that box. Not sure when we're going to get to it, but I am excited nonetheless. And that's it. Those are all of the books that we picked up in September. I am hoping that October will be less, but I already have plans to go to a bargain bookstore soon. So what you gonna do? But I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down below if you've read any of the books that I haven't mentioned in this video, what your thoughts on them were, or if you have a book that you picked up in September that you just are so excited about, let me know that as well. And as always, all of the books that I talked about will be linked down below if you would like to get to know more information, or if you would like to pick up a copy yourself. It's all down there. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all of those out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!